to suspend temporarily the convertibility of the dollar into gold or other reserve assets.
A great weight is lifted from us. Great tension relieved.
Conflicts have to do with price stability versus economic growth.
I know you're into the gold standard, but do you really think that could happen in 5 years?
Absolutely. The reason that gold standard, that gold bugism survives in this modern world is because it's a doctrine that has always been subsidized heavily by billionaires who like the idea that nobody can print money and nobody can inflate away any of their assets, even if a little bit of inflation is what it takes to rescue the nation from mass unemployment.
So it's a scam.
Of course it's a scam.
Electrifying the planet with its sudden change to world economics and plunging the planet into a new era of money, the gold standard to fiat money change in 1971 is responsible for a major controversy on whether or not the fiat money exchange was the right option for the world. The gold standard to fiat money standard was a phase in which much change, conflict, and compromise resulted. In 1933, the entire world, except for Britain and China, was using the gold standard. The gold standard states that the value of currency is defined by terms of gold. Therefore, people would walk into a bank holding their vault and exchange a piece of paper money for gold. However, the U.S. Great Depression was going on, and Black Tuesday was the horrible start to the Great Depression when the stock market collapsed. This horrible event took place on October 29, 1929, and investors traded a record of 16.4 million shares. They also lost $14 billion in total on the New York Stock Exchange. This amount, $14 billion, is worth $199 billion in 2017 dollars. As a result, Franklin Delano Roosevelt, along with other world leaders, completely changed the way we exchange money. Many people in the U.S. disagreed or even ridiculed this decision. In this new exchange of money, the Bretton Woods monetary gold system decided in the Bretton Woods Monetary Conference the dollar was still linked to gold. However, all currencies were linked to the dollar. Therefore, currencies weren't connected directly to gold anymore. Unfortunately, a few countries, such as France, didn't trust the dollar, and as their currencies were linked to it, they decided to go back. This was the conflict. However, in 1971, Richard Nixon stopped allowing this. He took the U.S. and therefore the world off anything even close to resembling the gold standard. Nixon brought the entire world into the fiat money exchange.
I have directed Secretary Connally to suspend temporarily the convertibility of the dollar into gold or other reserve assets, except in amounts and conditions determined to be in the interest of monetary stability and in the best interest of the United States. In full cooperation with the International Monetary Fund and those who trade with us, we will press for the necessary reforms to set up an urgently needed new international monetary system.
This was the Nixon shock. Therefore, when some countries disagreed with the Bretton Woods system and some countries disagreed with the gold standard, the two groups settled on fiat money. This was the compromise. Now, all countries have separate currencies. America has the dollar, India has the rupee, and so on. The fiat money exchange states that paper money is inconvertible and made legal by a government, and countries have individual currencies. However, with this compromise, there were some who didn't agree with this, but fiat money stayed in all countries. Even now, there are some people who think that the world should go back to the gold standard, but it hasn't reached the U.S. government's attention, as there are other arguments that oppose the gold standard. Let's rewind back in history, when Richard Nixon took the world completely off the gold standard and anything resembling it, including the Bretton Woods system. Why was the gold standard abolished? To answer this question, one must properly analyze the advantages and disadvantages of the gold standard. Here are the following advantages. The gold standard does not allow a government to print money at will. This also decreases military spending and therefore prevents unnecessary wars. This also prevents hyperinflation as a government cannot print too much money, making the currency lose its value.
We don't have a gold standard and we have fiat currency instead. Governments can print as much money as they like in principle. You've seen that happen in history and cause some problems. And the classic example is Weimar Germany. So in post-World War Germany, Germany owed a lot of money, especially to France, to pay for World War I. And the way that they decided to pay it was to print currency. And so I was just looking at some numbers in Der Spiegel, and they said at the beginning of World War I, a dollar was worth about 4.2 Deutschmarks. By November of 1923, a dollar was worth 4.2 trillion Deutschmarks.
Under the gold standard, income levels in the United States was rising much faster. In the decades prior to the US abandoning the gold standard completely from 1950 to 1968, the median income rose 2.7% per year. Since leaving the gold standard in 1971, the average median income has only increased 0.2% each year. The fiat money standard makes gas prices go up quickly and therefore destabilizes the oil industry. Since leaving the gold standard in 1971, inflation has made the price of oil go up about 32 times as much as it was before. Also, the USA debt has been approximately $15 trillion less during the gold standard than what it is today. Interest rates have been approximately 8 times smaller during the gold standard, and inflation rates have become smaller during the gold standard, almost 7 times smaller. Here are the following disadvantages.
Is that if you discover new gold, then you can get inflation, right? Because gold becomes less valuable. And so a really good example of this is colonial Spain. So Spain was basically a silver-based economy. And when they went to South America and Latin America, they were looking for gold, and or not gold, they were looking for gold, but also silver. And they found a ton of silver. And basically what wound up happening is they took all that silver back home. It cratered the value of silver.
The value of gold fluctuates widely. Between 1879 and 1933, when the US was on a full gold standard, the value of gold fluctuated from the $700 range from the 1890s to the $200 range in the 1920s. From 1934 to 1970, when the US was on a partial gold standard, the value of gold went to $563 to $201. The gold standard causes multiple financial panics and bank failures. Between 1879 and 1933, the United States had financial panics a total of 8 times. These 8 times included the Great Depression. Many prominent economists oppose returning to a gold standard. Nobel Prize-winning economist Paul Krugman has called the gold standard a comically bad idea. The chairman of the Federal Reserve, Ben Bernanke, has said that the gold standard would not be feasible for both practical reasons and policy reasons. The gold standard prevents the government from spending as much money on important things like Social Security and Medicare. As you can see, if this change from the gold standard to the Bretton Woods system to fiat money never happened, then economies from countries like the US, India, and France, and every other country in between would be completely different. The gold standard to fiat money change from 1933 to 71 brought much change, conflict, and compromise.